Please welcome SID COELHO-PRABHU, Toshi Product Lead at Coinbase.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to give you guys a second to settle in. Man, tough act to follow, Ronnie Cheng right there. Yeah. All right. So quick introduction. My name is SID COELHO-PRABHU, and I am the product lead for Toshi at Coinbase. And today I'm going to be taking you all on a guided tour of the decentralized web, but on mobile. So before we get into today's decentralized web, I just want to take a quick minute to reflect on the year that was, and where we started a year ago and where we've ended up today. So some of you may recognize this guy. That's my boss, Brian Armstrong, co-founder of Coinbase. And a year ago, he stood up on this very stage and announced a new product, Coinbase's latest product called Token. And Token was to be a mobile browser for the decentralized web. Now, we had some idea of what we were going to build, but I think we had no clue just the sheer amount of biddling and innovation that would happen in the next year to come. So if I were to shortlist some of the highlights, I would say that here's the first one, the big one, right? So ERC20, the idea of programmable money, and the idea that anyone, anywhere in the world could just spin up a currency and use it to raise funds. Very powerful. And then as an extension to that, 0x, the idea that any two people could trustlessly exchange their assets without having to rely on an intermediary, without worrying about the exchange getting hacked. Next big milestone, ERC721, or as they're better known, CryptoKitties. So the idea that you could now have unique tradable assets that anyone could own, and then once again just trade them like as if they were real-world assets. And then finally, the one thing that I'm most excited about, which I'm going to talk to you about today, is dApps, or decentralized applications. Now, looking at all of these kind of innovations of last year, what does a mobile browser for these products look like? Like, how do you create something that will allow people to use all of this? So it starts with a wallet. So a user-controlled wallet that stores not just your ETH, but also your tokens and your collectibles. Then a dApp browser that lets you both discover new dApps for people that are new to crypto and new to the Web3, as well as actually use them. And then finally, a messenger that lets you send money to people, and not to 40-digit long hash addresses, to actually send money to friends and family anywhere in the world. So coming back to dApps, I think it's become very clear over the last 6 to 8 months that dApps are the medium by which most people, most end users will experience the decentralized web. At Coinbase, we think that these are the vehicle that will take us from the initial investment phase into the real phase of people, what we call the utility phase, where people are actually using crypto. And the reason dApps are so powerful is because they build on the 2 decades of experience that we all have with building consumer experiences for the web with tech like HTML and CSS and JavaScript. And then they add a little bit of this Web3 magic. And so what that means is that when I open a decentralized Web3 browser, I show up at a website. That website can now see my wallet and then knows how to interact with me and lets me interact directly with the blockchain. And that's what makes dApps so powerful. A year ago, we had less than 10 live dApps, and now that number is at over 1,400. So there's been an explosion in dApps, and that number is growing very quickly as we speak. And until recently, most of you guys have probably used MetaMask. And the only way to use dApps was on the web using MetaMask. And now with the arrival of mobile browsers like Toshi, people can access their dApps, access their tokens, their collectibles in a form factor that's much more convenient. And this is really important because if you look around this room, you'll see there's more people that use their mobile phones and spend more hours on their mobile phones than people even use desktops today. And if you look around the world at emerging markets, you look at India, you look at China, you look at Africa, for at least 1 billion people around the world, the only way they can access the internet is through mobile phones. And so if we want to start a revolution, it has to be on mobile. So I think a lot of dApps have taken the cue in the last few months. This is a short list of dApps that work well on mobile. If you open Toshi, we feature over 50 of them. And there's exchanges, there's collectibles, there's social media, jobs, and I'm going to take you through a tour of all of this. So with that intro out of the way, let's go down the rabbit hole and kick off our tour of the decentralized web. So our first stop is we're still in fiat land. We need to get over into crypto land. So we're going to open the buy widget on Toshi. This is a sneak peek. We're going to release this in the next couple of weeks. But it makes it really easy for me to jump into my Coinbase account, buy a little bit of crypto, and send it directly into my user-controlled wallet. And so in a few seconds, there we go. We bought ETH. And now that we're armed with ETH, we can go token shopping. So because Toshi is a neutral and open platform, we feature a variety of decentralized exchanges. So you can see we already feature around 7 or 8 of them, and there's 2 or 3 more coming. So in this demo, I'm going to use Oasis Direct because it's really simple. We're going to buy some DAI. So let's buy around $30 worth of DAI, which is a stable coin. And then we're going to go to the wallet, the Toshi wallet, and there it is. So our tokens have showed up. What's really impressive about decentralized exchanges is that because of their architecture, they're able to offer a variety of options in terms of the tokens, as well as a security that centralized exchanges of today have to work really hard to achieve, whereas DEXs achieve this just right out the box. And so this is an example of AirSwap, for example. You can just see the sheer number of tokens available. It's pretty awesome. And now let's have some fun. So I'm sure you guys have all heard of CryptoKitties. Most of you probably own one. But what does it look like on mobile? So in this example, here's a cat that I like. It doesn't have a tail. That's a very rare trait. So I'm gonna buy this one. So we're gonna buy the cat, quick transaction. And then we're gonna jump to the actual wallet, the Toshi wallet, and take a look and make sure that it's showed up. So my CryptoKitties, you can see I own a bunch. And there it is, the last one at the bottom. That's my cat. And so what's really awesome about collectibles is not that you go to some website and you buy something. It's more that now you own it and it's in your wallet. And any other website you go to, any other dApp that you go to that recognizes this can show it back to you and allow you to extend its functionality. So let's take a look at this, for example. We go to kittyhats.co. It recognizes my kitty. And now I can start to accessorize the cat. So the Tide Pod bow tie, or bread face, or some cool sunglasses. And even cooler than that, I think, is what if your cat had a social media personality? Which sounds really silly, but maybe this is a thing. So you show up at user feeds. It recognizes my cat and gives it an avatar. And now I can start to talk to other cats and post on this social feed, and maybe even build up this cat's position as an influencer. Or maybe I then go to crypto goods, and I can buy a real-world piece of merchandise, like a mug or a T-shirt, with my digital good printed on it. And maybe if I have a really awesome digital good, other people will pay money to buy T-shirts with it. And so let's say you've been to user feeds, you've turned your cat into the Kim Kardashian of cat chat, right? It's really popular now. And you can go to an eBay-style decentralized exchange and put your cat up for auction to the highest bidder. So this is Rarebits, for example. There's a couple of them. There's Rarebits and OpenSea. And now I'm going to put my cat up for auction and see how much people will pay for it. So there's a lot of really interesting things going on in this collectible space. And the feedback that we've gotten from users is that they form an emotional attachment to these collectibles. And that's what makes it so powerful. And especially when it's on mobile and they can open up their phone and see what they own, that's a really powerful experience. And it's not just about cats. This is, you heard from Beatrice yesterday about Dada. Here's another project that's about to go live called the Rare Art Project. And they curate art and then tokenize it and offer it for sale in limited editions. So here's an example of something, and you can see it's available. There's 20 of these, and they're available to either make an offer or buy outright. And this is just literally the starting point, right? Some of these seem silly, but people are already trying to put houses in a non-fungible token and then move it onto the blockchain. And so people will be able to buy and sell things like houses in crypto. And it's not just creative concepts either. If there's some technical project or journalism that you want to support, there's projects like Stake Tree, like Civil, like Unlock, where you can go and support all of these people without any intermediaries like a Patreon. Then another big area of interest is, if you've been following, there's a lot of drama around social media these days. And a lot of it has to do with either the ownership of people's private information or censorship, where people don't agree with the moderation and censorship policies. So let's take this example, which is Peepeth. And they are a decentralized Twitter. And so all of the information that you post is posted directly to the blockchain and to IPFS. Now, if you post something and then Peepeth, the official Peepeth front end, decides to censor it, you can just fork that front end and create a different front end that goes directly to the data. So now no one person or one organization is in charge of the data that you see. Another really powerful kind of promise of crypto has been to create a universal payments layer, so people can buy and sell, merchants can accept payments anywhere in the world without having to worry about setting up accounts and without having to worry about borders and banks and intermediaries. And in this example, you can see how a merchant has used Coinbase Commerce, and a Toshi user can buy like this pair of socks with just one click. And this is anywhere in the world. So no Stripe, no Visa. It's pretty cool. And let's say that you're planning a trip to Europe, and you want to pay with crypto. So you can use services like Crypto Cribs, where if you're traveling to Berlin or Amsterdam, you just enter which city you're going to and the dates, and you can find houses of people that will accept crypto as payment. And then finally, I think for all of us here, one of the reasons we've been excited about crypto is that it holds this promise of being able to change things for people that have not had access to financial services, that have not had access to livelihoods. And in order for crypto to truly fulfill its promise, we have to be able to do this. And there's already some dApps out there that are doing a great job of this. So for example, if you go to Cent, you can answer questions and get paid in a small amount of crypto. Or you can go to ETHLands and find jobs that pay in crypto. Or Bounties Network or Gitcoin, where you can solve a bounty and get paid in crypto. And so this is what will help us get from a million people to many more and to reach emerging markets, is giving people the opportunity to earn. So that kind of sums up where we stand today and what it looks like to access the decentralized web. I hope that one day we'll look back and say, oh, this is really cute and really funny, and we've come a long way. So this is a bit of a time capsule. But what are we really excited about in the next few months, right? Identity is going to be huge. We feel like identity is going to unlock use cases like being able to create an identity on the blockchain, build up credit, get access to financial services, right? I think all of those will get unlocked, being able to secure your private keys. All of these will get unlocked by having an identity on the blockchain. Next is state channels. If you've been following them, they will massively reduce latency, reduce transaction times, reduce transaction fees. And then there's protocol-based dApps, which are, if you've followed the 0x ecosystem, right, we've seen this whole mushrooming ecosystem that came up around a protocol. And we think we're going to see the same thing with other protocols like Dharma, which allows lending, or LivePeer, which is like a decentralized YouTube-style protocol. And there's DYDX and SET protocol. So we feel that all of these are going to create an entire ecosystem of dApps that users can actually use. Next is token-curated registries. Very nascent technology, but we feel like there'll be a great opportunity and a great tech to help with curation and sorting of information on the web. And then one thing that we spend a lot of time on at Toshi is just the user experience. We've onboarded thousands of users that are new to crypto, and overwhelmingly, I can say that our insight has been that the experience is just too damn hard. There's too many technical barriers to adoption. So users have to learn about private keys and public addresses and gas limits. And it's just too much. We can't expect this of users. Once again, if we want to get from 1 million to 1 billion, all of us here as a community, the early adopters, have to figure out ways to reduce that barrier to adoption. And then one last thing I'd say is that, despite all of these predictions, I don't think any of us know what's coming next. I think if you just look back at the year, and we started in one place and we ended up entirely in a different place. I'm really excited that we're building the infrastructure layer, but I can't wait to see what exciting dApps that you guys all build and that the community builds. So I'm really excited to see that. So one last plug is, if any of you like what you've seen today, we're actively hiring at Coinbase. And so come talk to me outside of this. We'd love to talk with anyone who's, even if you're new to crypto, we're trying to grow the community. And so happy to talk to anyone here. Thank you. I'm happy to open up to questions to anyone.
Oh, right here. Oh.
Hi, I'm a big fan of the service. I use Coinbase. It's the best fiat on-ramp into crypto there is. And I'm kind of curious, what is your guys' strategy in terms of decentralized exchanges in which you might not have as much control over KYC, AML?
Sure. So, Coinbase is a crypto-first company, right? And so if you look at it, we have a secret master plan that we've published on the internet. And our first phase was about building that bridge, the bridge that you use today and many of you have used today. But we're definitely focused on also now beginning to explore the world of completely decentralized products, including decentralized exchanges. So I think I'm sure you'll see us play an active role in that space. And of course, we'll do it in Coinbase style, which means that we'll always do it in compliance with any regulations. But we're happy to engage in that space and trying to figure out the best way to bring these technologies to customers.
I have two questions. So
Sure.
The first one is Cypher, right? So Coinbase acquired Cypher. And can you talk a little bit about how that plays into your roadmap? And then also, in terms of desktop mobile wallets, I talked to someone at Consensus last week, and MetaMask apparently doesn't have mobile on their roadmap. And Toshi and Cypher are mobile-based, but there's no desktop. Who is going to bridge the gap between desktop and mobile wallets? And is that on your roadmap?
Sure. So let's take your first question about Cypher. We started to talk to Pete a few months ago, and it turned out that we had very similar visions. We were building essentially very similar products. Our product style at Toshi was to build a very, very simple product that was for absolute beginners, and we hid away a lot of the complexities. And Pete took a slightly different approach of creating something that was really useful for power users, for developers, for people that are already in the ecosystem. And what we felt was that it would be a great opportunity for us to combine forces. Pete's an incredibly talented developer, and so we were lucky to have him on board. So that's your first question about Cypher. And then secondly, about our roadmap, I think it's probably true that there should be products that span platforms. I think the overall vision is that people want to be able to, when they use the decentralized web, it shouldn't matter which platform they're on. There should just be one experience. So I can't speak concretely to our roadmap, but I think that's definitely something that you'll see is that over time, products will emerge that sit across both platforms.
Hi, thank you so much. My name is Ronnie Rose. I'm representing ETH News. My question is about owning your own data with Toshi. We talk a lot about owning your data with blockchain tech. With today's mobile apps, I can choose to sign into an app with my Facebook account and share my data with them. What do these apps see? For example, the kitty hats. They got to see the kitty that I purchased. What do these apps get to see about the rest of my data?
Sure. So as of today, the way Web3 works is that as soon as you show up at a dApp, the Web3 browser injects your Ethereum address. And so what will happen is that the dApp is then able to look at your Ethereum address and look at your transaction history. Now, there's a couple of things that we're trying to do to fix that. So the first is to stop injecting Web3 by default. And that's actually a community standard. That's the way Web3 works today. But we need to move to a point where it doesn't inject it by default. Another way to do it is to improve the privacy, is to support multiple addresses. So you can use a different address each time. So a dApp can't see what your previous transactions were. And then the final version would be a full identity-based solution where every time you show up at a dApp, you get to pick what data you share with that dApp. And you could have your name, your email address, all your private information stored locally on your device. And then you choose how much you want to reveal in any interaction. So I think there's a spectrum of evolution there that we're working on.
With today's technology that we have in the Western world, the modern world, it almost seems that we don't necessarily have a real need for it. But in developing communities, I definitely see a need for it. They don't have PayPal, for example, where they can just buy something instantly online. Do you see this really penetrating the more modern world and developed world?
Yeah, so Toshi, from the very beginning, a focus of ours has been to work as much as with the emerging world as the Western world and the early adopters. I think there's a conflict where the early adopters tend to be in the Western world and privileged nations. But then what we tried to do was we launched on Android first before we launched iOS, because we know that the majority of the developing market uses Android phones. Our install size is only 6 megabytes. And so we're trying to make a product that's really lightweight that works in those areas as well. And hopefully, as more dApps are built up and people are able to borrow and access financial services, it becomes more and more compelling for people in emerging markets to use it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So there seems to be a big focus on the censorship question with regards to these decentralized apps and the social networks on them. But as we've seen with the web now, which is very censorable, it's been overrun by like Nazis and radicalizing forces. Where is the ethical responsibility to protect people who aren't just the tech elite in this room and these early adopters? So when we grow out the ecosystem, where's the ethical responsibility to protect people from Nazis and trolls and other forces and propaganda or whatever? Is there one?
Sure. I can't speak to how social networks will evolve, but my gut tells me that essentially what will happen is that the basic underlying data is always going to be raw. And anyone is going to be able to access the raw data, just like you saw with PPIP in my presentation. But what will happen is that you'll probably see an emergent middle layer where people can choose to have moderators. And so they can choose to go to a feed that moderates some of that information and presents it in a more useful way, or protects people from like Nazis and trolls and other influences that they may not want to be exposed to. So the idea is that people can choose to filter their experiences in the way that they see fit, as opposed to having it done for them.
Yeah, I have a question about the widget that you're planning to roll out to be able to buy Ether within the app. I'm also causing feedback. I apologize. So on May 8th, I tried to buy some Ether from CoinDesk in order to be able to, Coinbase, I'm from CoinDesk, to be able to try out PPIP before your presentation. I got an email yesterday saying that I would have it by May 17th. So will that be any faster, this widget?
Sure, yeah. So I think part of that is to do with what method of purchase you use. And so just because of fraud concerns and just the way the traditional financial system works, which was Coinbase as a bridge is still burdened with many of those aspects. So if you use a debit card, it would be an instant payment. But if you use your bank account, then it's going to be as much time as it takes for the ACH to clear. And so that's why you see a delayed payment. But if you bought with your debit card, you'd be able to see it instantly.
Thanks.
Yep.
You have time for one more question?
Sure. Yeah. Hi.
Hi. So you are talking about the apps and building apps for the platforms. What about the PWAs, like progressive web apps, like instead of building the apps for the platforms to make it more accessible? Are you thinking of PWAs? And also, the browsers are also coming up with these APIs, like payment API. So do you have any thoughts on that, or any roadmap or plan, or working on those?
Sure. So one of the core things that a Web3 browser does for you is to securely store your private keys. And it does so in the secure enclave of the phone, where it can't be accessed by anything else. And then everything else about it is just a regular browser. Now, the issue with the progressive web app as of today is that there's no way to securely store the private key in the web app without exposing it to the actual web app itself. Now, if you expose your private web app to the dApp or to the website, then you're in trouble, right? They have access to your funds. And so until PWAs are able to securely store private keys, it's going to be a problem. So what we hope is that maybe there's a solution where you install the wallet functionality natively, and then that can talk to the PWAs and interface in order to sign transactions. So that's definitely on our roadmap, and I think that's how things will evolve. All right, thank you, everyone.